From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. Top stories tonight. Rivers women march in Port Harcourt in protest against emergency rule, demand reinstatement of suspended governor. Former President Goodluck Jonathan named winner of 2025 Sonhak Peace Prize, becomes first African to win Founders category. United Nations accuses Israel of killing only women and children in at least 3 dozen airstrikes it unleashed on Gaza.
And in business, Nigeria's pension regulator diversifies into infrastructure and private equity for higher returns.
In sports, National Sports Commission Chairman Shehu Diko unveils ambitious new transformative agenda for Nigerian sports.
Tonight begins now. Thank you for joining us. I'm Felicity Ezewike. We begin tonight in Port Harcourt, River State capital, where scores of women took to the streets demanding the reinstatement of Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy. Carrying placards with messages like "Bring Back Fubara" and "Save Our Democracy," they marched to the government house chanting solidarity songs. The protesters comprised of wives and mothers, and they appealed to President Bola Tinubu to restore democratic order in the state, questioning the differential application of the law in Rivers State. In the meantime, the Nigerian Bar Association has moved its 2025 annual general conference from Port Harcourt to Enugu State due to the state of emergency in place in Rivers State. According to the group, the declaration by the president violates Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution. The association cited concerns over the unconstitutional governance of Rivers State by a sole administrator appointed on March the 18th, 2025, and the suspension of democratic institutions. The conference will now hold at a new venue from August the 22nd to the 28th. NBA President Afam Osigwe SAN stated that Enugu State will provide a suitable platform for a successful and impactful conference upholding constitutional democracy and the rule of law. Let's talk about today's developments in Rivers State. We're joined now by Professor Iyala Dodd Peterside. He is a Rivers stakeholder and a professor of pediatrics and neonatology in the United States. Thank you for giving us your time to share your thoughts on what's going on in Rivers, and of course give us some insight on what the diaspora is thinking about what's going on in Rivers State. Let's begin with today's protest by these women. They made a lot of allegations. Are these women speaking the minds of many women, or all women in Rivers State, or just a select few?
I thank you, Felicity, for inviting me to your program. I think it's without doubt that the majority of Nigeria, the majority of your visitors have rightly decided and concluded that the state of emergency declared by the president was unconstitutional. And the process of ratifying it by the House and the Senate was a shambles. The issue of the protest by Rivers women is because the suspended governor has endeared himself to Rivers people by his actions, by his utterances, and by his behavior. He's charted a course of peace and tried, I think, to his best not to use the full power available to him to counter what has been a very, really rampant abuse of power, not just by the presidency, but by the ex-minister or the minister of the Federal Republic. The problem, I think, that we are underestimating is that the women's protest is peaceful now. What would happen when the youth and less controlled people get involved in this protest and reaction? And I think that's one thing that people are not, at least, let me say not people, but the presidency and the House are not taking into consideration, because this is mild now, and I'm not sure that how non-violent this will continue, because I get reports from youths in Nigeria and Rivers State in particular, and they are restive. And they are, honestly, if the governor has not been as calm and peaceful as he has been, if he'd taken to the airwaves or said anything that motivates these young people, we could be entering a worst case scenario here.
Let's take quickly one of the calls that they made, and that is to former presidents. Olusegun Obasanjo was mentioned, Goodluck Jonathan was mentioned, Buhari, the immediate past president, was also mentioned. Of what value are these calls, knowing that these people have been here? They don't seem to have spoken too loudly about the matter. It doesn't look like they've consulted them. Do they have any powers to influence the decision of the current president?
Again, there are lots of assumptions being made. I think that the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, Obasanjo, Wole Soyinka, and a few other prominent Nigerians have expressed their opinion on this issue. And my concern is that the presidency is turning a deaf ear to this pronouncements by prominent Nigerians. There have been several council of chief and elders of Rivers State that have tried to intervene in this with meetings with different people. The Governors Forum has tried to intervene and express their opinion. So has, several legal luminaries. And it seems to me that the presidency is either ignoring it or they're being tone deaf. But more concerning is that the House of Representatives, who tried to balance the president's unconstitutional pronouncement by asking for oversight and also, determining that they needed a peace committee to be set up, has done nothing. By now, in most climes, you would have.
So may I perceive from that you're agreeing with the women when they say that the sole administrator is becoming provocative and illegal?
No question about it. I mean, he's an ex-military man, and he's acting like this is a command posting for him. This is not a command posting. I think it was wrong in the first place to appoint a former military administrator to this very political affair. He's acting like he's in a command post. He's, in fact, I think that the real question for me is, did anybody give him a job description when he was appointed? If so, can we see it? Did the House empower him to do what he's doing? He's acting like he's there to stay. I mean, he's doing such really radical things for an administrator who has a term limit of 6 months at the most. He should have just gone there, kept things steady, prevent things from going out of control, made sure salaries were paid, and encourage the peace process so that he can go back to his retired life. Instead, he's acting like he's a new.
Okay, you said yourself that it seems the president is turning deaf ears to counsel to address the situation or perhaps reverse it. You've been off our shores for quite some time. What do you perceive as the stance of diaspora Nigerians on the Rivers State Emergency Declaration?
I think following the declaration, the clear impression I got from different leaders in the diaspora was that this was unconstitutional. The process of ratifying the president's orders were also unconstitutional, but that's water under the bridge. Now we have a sole administrator, and we are watching him compound the illegality of his appointment by several other illegalities, disbanding, statutory boards, disbanding tenured positions, creating, sole administrators for the local government. Where in the Constitution did he get that power from? Where in the Constitution does he get the right to take out the pictures of an elected governor from River State buildings and the airport? Where in the Constitution does he have the right to make a budget, which I hear he's trying to do? So if it's not in the Constitution, then maybe somebody empowered him to do that, and we'll need to figure that out, because they're getting to the point where it's almost dangerous, and very soon younger people are going to get involved.
There's been a clamor. I mean, you've even alluded to that. He's not listening. But then there's the call for intervention from international community. Is this the way to go? Is this something you subscribe to? What would be your suggestion for a way forward in this matter?
As I said several weeks ago, the only reason people are going to the international community is because our local communities are not listening. The House of Representatives for themselves said that they would have oversight over the administrator. They also said that they will set up a peace committee. It's going to 3 weeks now, none of which has happened. That is why people are reaching out to international organizations and saying something is going on in River State, something is going on in Nigeria that portends major conflict arising. And if River State bonds, Nigeria bonds. And Nigeria is very significant in the economy of West Africa, Africa, and the world, because of our status as the biggest biggest black nation in the world. So those people who are approaching the international community are hoping that saner voices or saner minds will play.
You said
that this is the wrong path to go.
You just pointed out something pertinent. It's been 3 weeks, and none of the committees that were talked about has been set up for dialogue. So, does it look like we're going to take the entire 6 months to find a solution at this pace? Do you think there is even going to be a consideration for getting out of the state of emergency, or worst case scenario, like most people are suggesting, there will be an extension?
I think that, without being cynical myself, that the actions so far, not just by the presidency in not listening to whatever anybody's saying, the House in not doing their job, and the administrator in acting in total ignorance of any laws at all, suggests that this is not a temporary position, that they are actually planning for a prolonged stay in River State, a prolonged stay with illegal government in River State, a prolonged stay such that, by the time all of this is sorted out, there will be enough crisis to extend the state of emergency. And that's what it appears to me. And I think all right thinking people will see that for what it is. This is not the way to go. If you're looking for peace, you start early. You don't start after 6 months. You don't start after 4 months. You start now, knowing that the process is going to be long and tedious to get everybody on the same page, to get everybody to make compromises on either way, so that you can finally. This is a purely political conflict. There's no lives lost, no buildings destroyed, nothing done. So this is the time to do it, because if other things begin to play, when there's destruction, lives lost, and anarchy, it becomes more difficult.
Professor, thank you so much for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for listening.
One of our top stories tonight, Nigeria's former president, Goodluck Jonathan, has been named the winner of the 2025 Sonhak Peace Foundation Founders Prize. I beg your pardon. The Sonhak Peace Prize Committee said Jonathan is being honored with the Founders Prize for his consistent mediation and pro-democracy activities on the African continent. The committee cited the associations he chairs, including the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation, the West African Elders Forum, and the International Summit Council for Peace. As notable instruments for his contributions, Jonathan was presented with the award on Friday in Seoul by the foundation. This makes Jonathan the third person and the first African leader to win this category of the Sunhak Award. Award for Ban Ki-moon, former United Nations Secretary General, and Hun Sen, Prime Minister of Cambodia. These were the previous winners of the award. Coming up tonight, a race for 2027, Atiku Abubakar leads high-powered delegation to former President Muhammadu Buhari. There's more when we come back. Stay with us. For staying with us, you're watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Rivers women march in Port Harcourt in protest against emergency rule, demand reinstatement of suspended governor. Former President Goodluck Jonathan, named winner of 2025 Sunhak Peace Prize, becomes first African to win Founders category. United Nations accuses Israel of killing only women and children in at least 3 dozen airstrikes it unleashed on Gaza. Former presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, on Friday led a high-powered delegation of opposition politicians to visit former President Muhammadu Buhari at his Kaduna residence. The Abubakar entourage had former governors Nasser El-Rufai and Aminu Tambuwal of Kaduna State and Sokoto State. The former vice president did not disclose the details of the meeting's agenda and its outcome, but it has speculators raising questions about prospects for the 2027 presidential election. It took to his verified X handle on Friday to disclose the visit, describing it as a wonderful time. While the crisis is deepening within Nigeria's main opposition party, the PDP, as internal divisions threaten its unity. Nearly 2 years after losing the 2023 presidential election, the party's 12 governors are reportedly distancing themselves from its national leadership. This growing disaffection casts doubt on the upcoming NEC meeting scheduled for May. Stakeholders warn that the party's lack of cohesion could leave it vulnerable and unprepared for the 2027 elections, raising serious concerns about its political future. Public affairs analyst Aouna Habib, speaking on News Central's Breakfast Central, says opposition parties need to be united if they are to challenge the ruling All Progressive Congress in 2027.
In PDP, look at Wike. When interview Atiku Abubakar, why have you not been able to expel Wike? Atiku was helpless. Why is Wike making sure that the NWC did not meet and NEC did not meet? That's what I'm saying.
I mean, last time.
Wike is serving a APC government. We cannot expect Wike to do anything in the interest of the party, of PDP. So we are the men. I've heard it before. This is a program. If the opposition parties fail to come together, fail to be united, one, they'll be able to produce a coherent response to the misgovernance we are seeing from the APC. They'll be able to get united and fight the battle ahead.
A group of human rights lawyers known as the Lawyers for Civil Liberties has called on Nigeria's National Judicial Council to investigate alleged constitutional violation in the appointment of the Imo State Chief Judge. They spoke to newsmen in Abuja saying the appointment of the Imo State Acting Chief Judge violates Section 271, subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution and called on the state government to adhere to the rule of law and strictly obey legal provisions guiding such appointments. The group adds that breaches to lay down provisions of the law violates the sanctity of the nation's judicial process and undermines public trust in the judiciary.
After the NJC took decision against the previous chief judge of Imo State, when issues as in regards to age falsification came up, we believe that that would be an opportunity for the state to right its steps and follow the constitutional provision. But we were surprised, and dismayed, as many other Nigerians were too, when it became very obvious that the person that the state appointed next was the fourth in line in judicial hierarchy against the extant provision of Section 271, sub 4.
We are also saying that at this point, there should be consequences for juniors that present themselves to act where their seniors are supposed to be. I do not know if it's a pattern with Imo State that the fourth position thing, but in this case, the judiciary, the nation is watching, and we will not sit back and keep quiet while the whole scenario in Imo State makes mockery of the judiciary.
In a significant move to bolster the fight against crime in Warri and the entire Delta State, Tantita Security Services Limited has invested in rebuilding and equipping the Oborikoko Divisional Headquarters with state-of-the-art facilities and cutting-edge technology. At the commissioning, Managing Director of Tantita, Kestin Ponde, reiterates that the initiative is part of Tantita's ongoing efforts to support law enforcement agencies and promote community safety. Correspondent Biola Festus was there for News Central.
The Oborikoko Divisional Headquarters of the Nigeria Police Division in Uwe, local government area of Delta State, was in a deplorable state for several years. However, in line with its contribution in fighting crime in Warri and Delta State at large, Tantita Security Services Limited has changed the narrative.
I extend my sincere thanks to Tantita Security Services Nigeria Limited for their generous contribution to this project from start to finish. The new Oborikoko Police Station is equipped with state-of-the-art facilities and designed to improve our operational efficiency and enhance the capability of our officers and men.
The decision to rebuild the Oborikoko Divisional Police Station was born out of the recognition that security infrastructure matters. A secure, functional, and decent work environment boosts morale, enhances operational effectiveness, and strengthens public confidence in law enforcement. Tantita Security Services Nigeria Limited has continued to provide security for our pipelines and other oil and gas infrastructure.
At the unveiling of the police station, the Inspector General of Police, represented by AIG Salman Dogo, explained that Tantita's unwavering support for Nigeria Police highlights its commitment to fostering a safe society.
The donation of these stations reflects not only a commitment to the well-being of the community, but also a deep trust in the role our police force play in maintaining peace, law, and order. This station will undoubtedly enhance our ability to respond quickly to the emergencies, address crime effectively and efficiently.
The Delta State government and traditional rulers also commended Tantita and the Nigeria police for working closely to bring insecurity to a halt in the state.
Tantita has the DNA of the enterprise of the future. This is a remarkable, genuine social responsibility. You are not just starting with security, because you have done a whole lot of that in a whole lot of communities, especially protecting our critical assets. So we'd like to commend you for also trying to build capacity in areas where you live, where you operate.
For this company to have thought it wise to invest so much on security, they want the progress developer in Nigeria.
Tantita has done more than enough to sustain the economic well-being of this nation by ensuring that the oil assets are well protected.
Tantita Security Services was engaged in August 2022 by the federal government of Nigeria to provide security and surveillance services for Nigeria's crude oil assets. The upgraded facilities and technology at the Ugborikoko Police Divisional Headquarters will enhance the division's capacities, enabling them to respond more effectively to security challenges in the region. In Warri, Delta State, for News Central, Biola Festus.
Staying in Delta State, the Baramatu Youth Council has condemned statements credited to Michael Diden, an Ishekiri leader, who allegedly claimed in a now viral video that personnel of the Tantita Security Services were invading communities in the guise of pipeline surveillance. He appeared to have directly called on the Ishekiris to deny indigents of Baramatu access to their community, particularly staff of Tantita, alleging that Tantita security personnel were apprehending community members, detaining them in cells, and subjecting them to conditions similar to modern-day slavery. But in their response, the Baramatu Youth Council exonerated Tantita and described the circulating video as being capable of inciting ethnic tensions.
Tantita workforce include Nigerians from various ethnicity working alongside the military and other government agencies. Any claim that Tantita is invading ethnic communities is not only false, but also an insult to Nigeria Armed Force, who collaborate with these security efforts. We challenge Mr. Dinde to provide verifiable evidence of any such invasion. No such record exists. His claims are smokescreen designed to protect illegal operations that impoverish our people and devastate our environment. Baramatu Kingdom has always been known for peace, hospitality, and a strong commitment to national security. We have never attacked any of our neighbors, including the Shekiri people, nor do we intend to do so. We call on the Department of State Service, DSS, the Nigerian Police Force, the Nigerian Navy to urgently investigate Mr. Dinde and bring him to justice. Under Section 366 of the Criminal Code Act, anyone who threatens violence to compel or to deter lawful action is guilty of felony and subject to 5 years imprisonment.
The news returns shortly. Stay with us. Lawmakers from Nigeria's northeast geopolitical zone have condemned the exclusion of their region from the federal government's Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones program. At an emergency press briefing held at the National Assembly, the caucus, which includes all senators and representatives from the region, called on President Bola Tinubu to immediately review the rollout and include the Northeast. Caucus Chairman, Senator Danjuma Goje, describes the exclusion as a setback to national unity and development, arguing that the Northeast region remains one of Nigeria's most agriculturally viable regions.
The emergency meeting was convened sequel to the exclusion of our zone from the all-important program of the federal government, that is the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone. At the end of the meeting, we resume as follows. 1. Commend the President and Commander-in-Chief for making this program a reality. 2. Lament the exclusion of the Northeast Geographical Zone from the processing zones despite its enormous agricultural potential, cutting across all sector value chains in the country. 3. Appeal.
In a bold step towards protecting and empowering survivors of gender-based violence in the country, Nigeria's Minister of Women Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, has provided support to a 12-year-old victim and her mother. The minister reiterated that the federal government is committed to supporting victims of gender-based violence. News Central's correspondent Sumaya Abubakar has the story.
It was an emotional moment at the Ministry of Women Affairs as the Minister Iman Suleiman Ibrahim led a press briefing focused on the empowerment and resettlement of a family devastated by gender-based violence. The mother and her 12-year-old daughter, a survivor of abuse, were the center of the government's latest intervention as they were given shelter, livelihood support, and the victim another opportunity at education.
The ministry has secured and furnished safe accommodation for the family for 2 years and is empowering the mother with a 1 million grant to start a business, supporting their journey towards self-reliance. The survivor has also been enrolled into school to continue her education upon resumption.
Minister, when I tell her my story, she promised to pay house for horse and shop, and she said she will make my baby go to school. Today, they find the school for her, and they pay the house for me to stay. And they give me money to start the business.
Officials at the ministry lauded the bravery of the family, describing the case as one out of many and underscoring the urgent need to speak out against gender-based violence so as to strengthen support systems for survivors nationwide.
A girl who survived a harrowing act of sexual violence perpetrated by a 75-year-old landlord. Her courage and that of her mother is a testament to the unyielding strength of the human spirit.
These cases are rampant everywhere. Every minute, every day. Please, let us speak out. When you see something, you say something. It took just a person to report this case, and today we are all happy.
The ministry says this intervention is part of a wider national push to provide immediate and long-term solutions for survivors of gender-based violence, ensuring that no woman or child is left behind. In Abuja, for News Central, Sumaya Abubakar.
Let's step away from Nigeria for a bit and go over to Israel. The United Nations has accused Israel of killing only Palestinian women and children in at least 3 dozen Israeli airstrikes on Gaza since mid-March. The UN also warned that Israel's military offensive threatens Palestinians' continued existence as a group. Ravina Shamdasani, spokeswoman for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, said on Friday that the office had documented 224 Israeli strikes on residential buildings and tents for displaced people in the Gaza Strip between March the 18th and April the 19th.
Between the 18th of March and the 9th of April this year, there were some 224 incidents of Israeli strikes on residential buildings and tents for internally displaced people. In some 36 strikes, about which we were able to corroborate information, the fatalities recorded were only women.
Business News is next when we return. Here for us with the business of today. Joanna, what are we looking at?
Yes, our pension fund regulators are hoping to boost their returns by diversifying portfolio We're going to get into that after this break. Nigeria's pension fund regulator plans to diversify investment. It intends achieving this by increasing allocations to infrastructure and private equity to boost returns and address inflation concerns. As of February, the country's retirement savings account held 23.26 trillion naira, or $14.58 billion, with 60% in government debt and under 10% in corporate securities. Ibrahim Bawai, spokesperson for the National Pension Commission, said the current strategy limits real returns, and according to him, PENCOM is now targeting commercially viable infrastructure projects, not subsidized initiatives like public housing. According to ratings firm Augusto & Co., this new tactic helps bridge Nigeria's estimated $878 billion infrastructure deficit by 2040 if sustained. And Google has initiated another round of layoffs, this time with its platforms and devices units such as the team behind Android, Chrome and Pixel. This follows a voluntary exit program launched in January. According to the information, which cited an insider source, the job cuts are part of a broader restructuring that began last year when Google merged its Android and Chrome's team under the devices group led by Rick Osterloh. The unit initially employed over 20,000 people. A Google spokesperson confirmed the layoffs, underscoring the company's continued streamlining efforts across the product divisions. And Brent and West Texas Intermediate crude climbed more than $1 on Friday after U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said the United States could end Iran's oil exports as part of an effort to bring the Islamic Republic to terms over its nuclear program. Brent crude futures settled at $64.76 a barrel, up 2.26%. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude finished at $61.50 a barrel, up 2.38%. Wright's comments provide upward momentum for oil prices following volatile price swings this week as U.S. President Donald Trump's new tariff regime continues. And on the local bourse, MTN and Oando are dragging the markets in the red. We know that yesterday there was an announcement of a public offer once MTN returns to profitability. It looks like investors are not taking that news quite well. The market declined 21 basis points today. All share index 104,563.34, and we have the market capitalization at 64.71 trillion naira. Sectoral performances, banking stocks are on the rise, 0.55%. Insurance as well, continuing their bullish run. Oil and gas down 0.43%. Consumer goods is flat, and industrial goods down 0.06%. That is your business tonight. I am Joanna Mustafa. Tonight continues with Felicity.
It's time for some business news, and the lovely Onyinye is here with the updates. National Sports Commission is up to something.
Yes, of course, Felicity. Nigerian sports is about to take a new look because the National Sports Commission chairman, he has kickstarted his campaign of revamping the sporting sector. I'll tell you more shortly, Felicity.
Okay.
In sports, Chairman of the National Sports Commission, Malam Shodiko, has unveiled Nigeria's ambitious sports transformation agenda at the 2025 World Football Summit held in Rabat, Morocco. In his keynote speech, Diko outlined a strategic plan to reset, refocus and relaunch sport as a key economic driver in Nigeria. Diko emphasized the need for innovation, private sector, that's to collaborate, and the policy reform to build a thriving and sustainable sport ecosystem, and also proposed a new framework for the recalibrating of Africa's sport business model, aiming for long-term growth and global competitiveness.
Sports Development Fund in Nigeria, that will solve the problem. Already the fund is receiving legislative attention. It's at the parliament to create the fund. And if that fund come in play, every year that fund could generate over $1 billion, for example, which would basically be targeted towards the infrastructure, developing the infrastructure and maintaining the existing infrastructure. So that's the vision we are working with. And that's basically what he says now that interests me, because you need the government to have the vision, and then you need to also get the federations and who are driving.
The Confederation of African Football has announced that the draw for the 2025 Under-20 African Cup of Nations will be redone on Sunday, April 13, 2025. Following Cote d'Ivoire's withdrawal as host nation, the tournament now relocated to Egypt is scheduled to kick off on April 27, 2025. As a result of the host's change, Tunisia has been added to the list of participating nations, taking the slot vacated by Cote d'Ivoire. In a related development, CAF confirmed that there will be no MRI age testing conducted for the competition. Instead, it is the full responsibility of the host nation, Egypt, to ensure that only eligible players participate in the tournament. The reorganization aims to maintain the integrity and structure of the competition, which brings together the continent's top under-20 football talents. The Referee Development Committee of the Nigerian Football Federation, NFF, has suspended Ume Kingsley Chidebere from officiating in the Nigerian Women's Football League. The referee suspension was contained in a statement signed by Aminu Mohammed on Thursday. Chidebere, who was the center referee in the NWFL clash between Ibom Angels FC and Niger Rattles, was reported to have adversely affected the outcome of the game. And that's all in the world of sport. I am Onyinyechi Obaro. The news continues with Felicity.
Up next is entertainment news.
On entertainment, the U.S. District Court in Manhattan has given Nigerian singer Davido 21 days to respond to a lawsuit accusing him of intellectual property theft. Four Nigerian artists, Martins Chukwuka Emmanuel, Abel Great Umaru, Kelvin Ayodele Campbell, and David Oviogbena Umaru, claim Davido used elements from their 2022 song Work to create his 2024 track Strawberry on Ice without permission. Initially shared with Davido for a potential collaboration, the plaintiffs alleged he instead gave the song to Sierra Leonean artist Emerson, leading to an unauthorized creation of Strawberry on Ice, despite a March 2025 settlement agreement, which included a $45,000 payment and royalty shares. Davido reportedly failed to uphold the terms. The plaintiffs filed a lawsuit on April 4th seeking $150,000 in damages, partial ownership of the song's copyrights, and the court order to prevent further infringement. Davido and Wine Records have yet to comment on the case. Akinola Davis Jr.'s debut film, My Father's Shadow, has made history as the first Nigerian set fiction film by a Nigerian director to be selected for the prestigious On Certain Regards section of the 78th Cannes Film Festival. Set during the tense 1993 Nigerian presidential election, the film explores themes of family and societal unrest through the story of two young boys reconnecting with their father in Lagos. Starring British actor Shokwe Dirisu, the film was co-written by Akinola Davis Jr. and Wale Davis and supported by BBC Film, Element Pictures, Fatherland Production, and BFI. Shot in Lagos, the film captures the city's vivid atmosphere and marks a significant milestone for Nigerian cinema. Davis Jr. dedicated the achievement to Nigerian filmmakers and creatives, emphasizing the importance of authentic storytelling. The film's selection not only highlights Nigerians' growing presence on the global film stage, but also ensures greater recognition for African narratives in international cinema. That's all on entertainment tonight.
And that's all the news we have for you tonight. But before we go, a reminder of our top stories. Rivers women march in Port Harcourt, protesting against emergency rule. They are demanding the reinstatement of suspended governor. And former President Goodluck Jonathan has been named winner of the 2025 Sunheart Peace Prize. He becomes the first African to win Founders category. Off our shores, the United Nations They've accused Israel of killing only women and children in at least 3 dozen airstrikes it unleashed on Gaza. Do send your eyewitness report to the number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on social media at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274. We're also on Avo TV and YouTube. As always, thank you very much for your kind attention. Have a good night rest.